Chapter 12 Disappearing Scientists. On the afternoon of November 16, 1942, Robert Oppenheimer and Leslie Groves stood together in a deep canyon in northern New Mexico. Steep red rock cliffs rose on both sides of the canyon. A clear mountain stream trickled down the center. It was a gorgeous spot. "This will never do," Groves grunted. The two men walked back toward their car. "If you go up the canyon," Oppenheimer suggested, pointing east, "you come out on top of the mesa. And there's a boys' school there, which might be a usable site." The men climbed into the car and continued their search for the perfect place to build an atomic bomb lab. The site had to be remote so work could be kept secret, but it also had to be fairly close to railroad lines so people and equipment could quickly move in and out. And ideally, it would have some buildings already in place so scientists could move right in and get to work. A light snow began falling as the car wound its way up a narrow dirt road carved into the side of a mesa. The car reached the top and pulled up to a gate with a sign reading Los Alamos Ranch School. From their car seats, Groves and Oppenheimer peered through the gate. "We didn't want to get out," Groves remembered, as we should have had to give some reason why we were inspecting the place. Inside the gate, boys ran around playing sports in the snow, in shorts. "It was bitterly cold," recalled Groves. "I thought they must be freezing." Beyond the playing fields were a few school buildings, a dining lodge, log dormitories, and several small houses for teachers. Oppenheimer loved the mountain and desert views. Groves loved the isolation. "This is the place," Groves said. A few weeks later, the school director opened an official-looking letter and saw that it was signed by the Secretary of War, Henry Stimson. "You are advised," declared Stimson, "that it has been determined necessary to the interests of the United States in the prosecution of the war that the property of Los Alamos Ranch School be acquired for military purposes." The school was closed, the students sent home. While construction crews began expanding roads and nailing together new buildings at Los Alamos, Oppenheimer turned to his new task: a policy of absolutely unscrupulous recruiting of anyone we can lay hands on. A short while later, a Harvard University chemistry student named Donald Hornig was doing research in an explosive lab when the lab director walked in. Hornig's boss took him to the attic and locked the door. "How would you like another job?" asked the lab director. "What have I done wrong?" Hornig asked. "Nothing," said his boss. "What kind of job?" Hornig wanted to know. "Can't say." "Well, where is it?" "Can't say." "East or west?" "Sorry, my lips are sealed," said the director. "Think it over and let me know in the morning." Hornig decided to turn the offer down. It just sounded too strange. Then he started getting phone calls from former professors and the president of Harvard. They all wanted to know what his problem was. Didn't he realize his country needed him? He took the job. Similar scenes were taking place at top universities all over the country. People I knew well began to vanish, one after the other. Stanislaw Ulam, the mathematician at the University of Wisconsin, recalled. When Ulam got a letter inviting him to join the project doing important war work in New Mexico, suddenly he knew where everyone had gone. I accepted immediately with excitement and eagerness," he said. When the physicist Robert Marshank got a similar letter, he announced to his wife that they were leaving immediately. "What's it all about?" she asked. "I can tell you nothing about it," he replied. "We're going anyway, that's all." "At least tell me why we are going away," she demanded. He refused. Only when they were halfway across the country did she find out they were headed for the Southwest. Oppenheimer did a lot of the recruiting personally. "I traveled all over the country," he said, talking with people who had been working on one or another aspect of the atomic energy enterprise. It wasn't always easy to get them to sign up. The notion of disappearing into New Mexico desert for an indeterminate period, he recalled, disturbed a good many scientists. And yet Oppenheimer's offer did have appeal. Almost everyone knew that if it were completed successfully and rapidly enough, it might determine the outcome of the war, he said. Almost everyone knew that this job would be a part of history. The sense of excitement, of devotion, of patriotism prevailed. Most of those with whom I talked came to Los Alamos. Among those won over was a 24-year-old physics grad named Richard Feynman. He was working in his room at Princeton University when in burst a young physics teacher named Bob Wilson. Wilson announced that he'd just been given a top secret job. He wasn't supposed to tell anybody, Feynman remembered, but he was going to tell me because he knew that as soon as I knew what he was going to do, I'd see that I had to go along with it. The work, Wilson explained, had to do with uranium and fission and a whole new kind of bomb. There's a meeting at... I don't want to do it, Feynman cut in. All right, said Wilson. There's a meeting at 3 o'clock. I'll see you there. Wilson turned and left. I went back to work, Feynman said, for about 3 minutes. Then he got up and started pacing, thinking about what little he knew about fission and the possibility of building atomic bombs. This would be a very, very powerful weapon, he said, which in the hands of Hitler and his crew would let them completely control the rest of the world. He had decided to go to the meeting. Soon after, Richard Feynman disappeared from the Princeton campus.